Most often, the brightest smiles come from those who've struggled the most. What's behind your smile? Let's open up and talk about what's really going on behind the smile. And sometimes it's okay to fake it until we make it. I'm Bonnie Woodrick. Join me to gain insight on how many of us hide behind the smile to get through painful and difficult times. My podcast is a safe place where others can share their stories and discuss how opening up, rather than hiding behind a smile, allows for growth and happiness. His love of sports began at a young age, intensified when he started officiating football, with his path eventually leading to the NFL, and not one, but 2 Super Bowls. That may sound impressive, yet his greatest passion is his family. A conviction instilled in him by his late father, Dino Paganelli, known as the godfather of officiating. Family always comes first. Happy to have Dino Paganelli, a blast from my past, in the studio to chat about everything from his first officiating moment to his latest aspirations and adventures. So Dino Paganelli is in the house, and we're live, and it's so great to actually see people in person. So welcome to Behind the Smile podcast. I'm really grateful to have you here.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to our discussion.
Yeah, I do too, because there's so many things that I want to catch up with, because when I think back to meeting you for the first time and hanging out with you a little bit, and when I was doing the math, that was like 30 years ago.
I know. And it seems like yesterday in some cases, too.
I know, right?
It was fun.
It really does. We had some good times. So let's go back. We have so much to catch up between those. How many years is that? A lot.
Yeah.
Like 8,
but
20.
It's about 30 years, yeah.
30 years.
I've taught over 20 now, and I had a little transition there before getting into education. So, yeah.
Yeah. But what I read was that you started officiating as a senior in high school.
I did. My first little kids game, Rocket game, was out in Lowell. I remember it like yesterday. It was with my best friend, and we were paired up with a veteran, and we went out there, and the Lowell playground out there where they had the rodeos and stuff, and it was fun. I still remember it today. It was a great experience.
I love thinking about like the Lowell Fairgrounds and all of that. So your late father is known as the godfather of officiating.
Right.
So obviously that he had a huge impact on your decision probably and your influence to officiate. Tell us a little bit about your dad and that experience.
Yeah, Dad was a patriarch of the family. There's 3 Paganellis that officiate in the NFL, and we're the only 3-brother combo in any professional sports. There's a lot of 2, but not 3. But my dad also was a mentor and teacher to so many officials. I think when we look back at the NFL staff and really the big college programs too, he mentored so many officials and had touched so many in regards to, but he always kept it as family, which was important. And still today, as lessons we learn, it's still football, it's still big time, but it's still family first. And very centered.
Yeah. I love that. In fact, I was going to talk about that later, but since you bring it up, I'm going to talk about it now. One of the things that I hear often from you and the things that I have read or the articles that I've read, you always bring up family.
Yeah, that's the cornerstone. I mean, that is what my parents both instilled in us, and it's really important and close to my heart to keep that balance.
You've been officiating for 34 years. When did your dad start?
Yeah, my dad was a local he did basketball, he did football. He was known for football, but he did do basketball, small college as well. And then he just worked his way through Division II and Division III. His route was a little different than us 3 sons. He never officiated in the Big Ten or the Mid-American Conference of the NFL. He had some exposure to what was all called with the USFL, which was I worked in the NFL Europe kind of program that worked with projected officials that would be coming in the NFL. But then he took a more supervisor and training role, which is he found the love of teaching the art of officiating. He
taught you most of everything that you...
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I remember the first opportunity, he wanted me to officiate a JV game at Byron Center. It was a South Christian JV game. And I really didn't want to officiate. I was like, I was playing college baseball. This is like, I'm going to do my own thing. I was young, my own thoughts. And I remember my mother said, it means a lot to him just to give it a chance. And I said, okay, I'll give it one chance. And so I went downstairs, went through his closet. I put the extra large shirt on. I didn't have any shoes. I put these baggy pants on, white knickers they were called. And I got to the game site, and all I had was my white baseball cleats. And that wasn't the part. And I remember getting out of my car and my dad looking at me and seeing my older brother and a very best friend of the family just start laughing. And I'm thinking, it'd be so great to see me. Like, they're privileged. I'm here. And my dad said a few choice words I won't repeat. And that was my dad, old school. And he told me that I wasn't officiating if I was wearing those cleats to go home and get a pair of black shoes or dye them and then come back. And I could have easily not. I went home, put on the size 12, and I was a size 9, and went out and officiated the second half, and then I, took off from there.
So you really kind of fell in love with it that day.
I did, and I understood the discipline and the meaning of what my dad was trying to convey my first few years about. It meant so much to the kids. And even when we did little kids game, rocket games, he always would say, take it serious. Those kids, those parents, those coaches put in a lot of time. And have fun, but take it serious. And I think that's the only time I ever saw my dad get upset if he felt we were not respecting the game in regards to the officiating standpoint.
So you're in high school, you're in Lowell, you then have some officiating opportunities, but you go to college. So you went to Aquinas College, and you didn't go to college thinking that you were going to be like an NFL officiate.
I think I went to community college for 2 years, played baseball, and then I went on to Aquinas College for 2 years, and then those 4 years had the opportunity to do freshman and JV football, and that's where a lot of our younger officials start, and that is the proper transition. And then I started doing some Friday nights, I think when I was about 21 years old. And, that was a big experience doing a Rockford-Granville game. I remember those games, and East Grand Rapids games and Christian games. Those are all just great memories. I miss those Friday night memories. The Super Bowls, the playoffs, the bowl games. It's still Friday night is so pure, and I miss that, and I enjoy going to games just for that feel and those officials. So I'm kind of jealous on Friday night to see those officiate work those games. And then it was I did small college, Division III on my AA for a few years, mixed in with a Division II league, the GLIAC, and got a chance and entered into the Mid-American Conference, which was a Division I conference at 27 years old, and that was my first big break.
Okay, so let's go a little bit before 27 years old. So like when I knew you, because I think that for those that know you or the people that are in the Paganelli family, many of your fans, because you probably have fans and you probably have followers of you doing what you do. Many people probably don't know that you at one point in your life carried a gun for a profession.
I did.
Yes. So tell us about that experience and how you got into that.
Well, I was going to school to become a teacher. And at that time, I kind of maybe lost the interest of was that the direction I really wanted to go as teaching coach. And I did an internship with the U.S. Marshals and looked at becoming testing to become a federal agent. And at that time, the hiring process was long and slow. But I also did some training with the U.S. Marshal Service, and an opportunity came up with the Amway Corporation to work with their executive security. And had an opportunity to interview for that. They were looking for a new direction, somebody that had some corporate experience, because I was a loss prevention manager and trainer for a company for a number of years in a supervisor role, as well as had some U.S. training with weapon and some security aspects. And I was a qualified applicant that they felt that they wanted to go a different direction. And I was fortunate to have the opportunity to work for the Amway Corporation about 3.5 years, which were a great experience at my age, for sure. I grew up quick.
Well, that's what I know, because I'm thinking about, like, you did a lot, short amount of time to get, a federal agent. What was that all about?
I was kind of a contract basis, so I wasn't, like, employed by them, but I helped them. I did the internship and then stayed on for a little bit, and just basically basic services for the Federal Marshal Service. It was nothing elaborate that you'd see on TV. It was mostly, basic it wasn't anything glorified. I'd say that. It wasn't like carrying a weapon and doing those type of things. But it was more on the down low perspective.
Yeah.
So, that kind of gave me some experience, though, at least a little bit with law enforcement.
Well, that was pretty cool to experience that. And I remember you being in that role and us having some pretty good times and traveled to some different places and I think for me, I'm always so appreciative of people that knew Rob.
Sure.
And I know that you knew Rob. And I feel like you said, like sometimes it doesn't seem like 30 years. It seems like yesterday because that connection is there. And I love that connection with you because you were connected.
Yeah, you and Rob are one of my faves.
Yeah,
I took care of you guys.
You sure did take care of. I mean, there are times when you and I specifically remember you and I sitting like on a bench, and you're just shaking your head, and I'm just shaking my head, and you're going, "There's nothing I can do."
That was in Nantucket.
It was Nantucket. It was Nantucket, and it was so much fun. And it's funny how I can't remember some things that I did yesterday, but I remember being told that you were leaving and that you were going to go officiate. And I was just like, oh, yeah, okay. I didn't know what that meant, And now I look at all these years later, I'm so proud of you and how far you've come. And to choose teaching as your profession besides officiating. Does that go hand in hand with many of you?
Yeah, it does. A lot of the officials are teachers, administrators that have been in education. It's changing somewhat now, but I would say 10, 20 years ago, that was the majority of us. In the NFL, we get a wide variety. We have doctors, lawyers, teachers, businessmen and women. So it's quite a bit of array, but more so, I think, when I was coming up through the ranks, of a lot of teachers. And you got to have some flexibility. And, it came to a point where the Amway Corporation and the people that I was protectee were awesome in regards to giving me that flexibility to continue to grow as a person. But it became more of travel for me and my responsibilities. And it was a really delicate balance. And it was a job that was demanding of travel. And I was recently married, and I wanted to refocus on our marriage and stay with family is number one.
Yeah. I know. I think that says a lot. And again, that says a lot about you and the passion of family that your dad has, passed down to you. So when I look at that, what does it take to be, and because I feel like, okay, I was this. What education does it take for you to be an official?
Well, there's no degree. It's experience-based.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the NFL recommendation is 5 years of Division I officiating, but I had that plenty going into it. But it is basically gaining your experience and reps that we call it. They need more reps. That's more games, more plays. And, with the 4 years in the Mid-American Conference, and it was probably 8 to 10 years in the Big Ten, and then transitioned into the NFL and just completed my 16th year. It's somewhat of a blur sometimes. Yeah.
Well, I can't imagine because it's like how many officials make it to the NFL? Because that's the big place to be.
It's a tough get. We have 120 some officials. It's challenging. It's tougher to stay at times as well. When I was coming up, we did arena football, which is another side officiating gig, and then you had NFL Europe that I was gone for 4 or 5 years while I was doing college officiating as I was being considered for as an applicant to the NFL. And that program no longer exists, which is a really disadvantage because our new officials coming in don't have those reps that we were given with the NFL rules, philosophy, and they're trying to learn those on the given day on Sunday, and that's tough. So we were fortunate, our age group that came in are our applicants. But it's a very competitive field, and it is tough to stay as well.
I'm sure it is because what does your day look like? If you have to travel on Thursdays and Sundays, and it could be to 2 different locations, how do you work that with your school? Obviously, is very flexible.
School's outstanding.
Yeah.
There's no way that I could have been as successful or have to really pursue the officiating career without making some changes. The Wyoming Public Schools wasn't very favorable and fair and equitable with me. I'm very fortunate. And they're a great school district. I love our students. I love our district. And so I've been fortunate. And but it's also, trying to balance with family. It's a grind. It's the season, although this was different last year with COVID, with training camp and spring and preseason. Sometimes I'll roll 19 of 21 weekends in a row, and that's tough.
Oh, wow. Because you actually train with the players, correct?
We do go to training camp with them. We didn't last year. Like everything else has changed, and we'll spend 1 to 2 weeks with the players. And it's a really great opportunity because everybody's got their guard down, and we talk with coaches. They're approachable. We're more approachable. It's a good learning opportunity, why they're doing things, why are we calling things. I think the NFL instilled that years ago, and it's something they would like to continue to keep.
So, tough gig getting into the NFL, and it's very limited. So it has to be even tougher to officiate the Super Bowl.
It's a lot of pressure.
And you've had two.
I have had two.
I would say that that's a testament to you and your skill.
Oh, thank you. You got to be fortunate, and the ball's got to bounce your way, and, things got to go your way. It's, and when it's your time, it's your time. And in both cases, I've had really outstanding years and bounced back from some adversity and some challenges in my life in both of those, and I felt really good about those. Yeah.
With being in this Super Bowl
55.
55.
Yeah.
Okay, Super Bowl 55. I kind of mouthed 54 because I couldn't remember.
That's
but
fine.
5-5, double nickels, good year. So how was it different with COVID and the first, I'm sure the first was, did you do like a 30 some? No, what?
It was 47 was my first one.
Okay, so I'm going back to 34 years. But okay, so what was the difference between those two? Like the nerves that you had with the first one, were they different with the second one?
No, the nerves wasn't so much there. And I say this not in an arrogant perspective, though. I remember my dad teaching me a long time ago, maybe my first MAC championship game, and I may have said something. He said, if you're nervous, you're not prepared. And I've always kept that in light through the bowl games that I've done, to the Super Bowls or playoff games. You're excited, but you have to control your emotions. And that's a big part of those big games, is not getting caught up in the hype and checking yourself. When I look back at Super Bowl 47, I lost my late wife a year and a half earlier. So that was really family driven. Mm-hmm. It was something that I wanted to share with her before she passed, and she didn't. I was an alternate at one of the Super Bowls prior to her passing, but, although I did my job as an alternate, was still accomplishing that on the field. And because without her raising the kids and me being gone, there's no way. She was my champion. There's no way I could have been successful in any of this yet today without her foundation. And I owe that to her. And that Super Bowl was really a stamp for her, for all her help over the years. Yeah.
I just love that so much. And that's one thing that I wanted to talk to you too about today was your late wife. Because it's another thing that we have in common is that, I'm a widow, you're a widower.
Right.
And life changes. And when I just so appreciate hearing about your wife and that solid that she gave you and the kids, because that definitely sets the tone for who they are as well. And I think that's why I do what I do, because Rob can continue, and he can continue to guide me and bring me to the right people in my life, and hopefully saying the right things to people when they have those adverse situations too. So tell us a little bit about your wife, because I know she was a softball player. I remember being that newlywed.
Sure. Christy was an amazing woman. Of course, she was my best friend. She was the strength of the family. She really was. And she was a career-oriented. She was a chemist and major at Amway Corporation. She has still patents today, I believe. And so she was, very successful. And she was my hero, and I look back and the leadership she provided in the house and why I was going and when we were there and for the children, And Brady is my oldest. He's 21. Jake's 20. They were 10 and 12. And then Caitlin was 3.5 when Mom passed. So those foundations were there for the boys, and Caitlin is a little tougher, it's more family, more storytelling, but I see her in them every day, and they're tough cookies, and that was what she was. She really gave me inspiration. If I came home from a bad game, she would give me a few minutes, but it's like, hey, we got kid stuff, get it right. And, she taught me helped me with that, make some clarity with some veterans too. I had some stories that cleared some things up when I was young about, what's important, let alone outside my family.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I just am smiling, listening to you, talk about her. And I think mainly because I see the impact that she has had, even because how many years has it been since she's passed?
It's been 10 years, coming up on 10 years.
10 years.
It was past 10 years a couple weeks ago Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if the video is going to work or not, if we'll have it, but if people could see your facial expression change when you do talk about her.
Sure.
It just warms my heart. I mean, that love is still there. And I think that's one thing that I always say, love never dies. In fact, if anything, I think as I continue on my journey, I feel like it goes stronger because it's very, very difficult in the time that we're in. And when you don't have your parent of your children, to find that passion that your partner had with your children and somebody else, it's just so difficult. So
yes,
I can so relate to that smile in your face. And
I'm smiling, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm just so glad that your kids had that foundation. And that's another thing that we had in common because I know your boys, mine were 10 and 15. My girl, Chase, and then Whitney, 10 and 5, or 15 and 13, and Maddie was 5. So I definitely can relate to your daughter and being 3.5, with mine being 5 years old. She has no memory of her dad. But the ironic thing is she's most like him.
Is she?
It's kind of weird,
Yeah.
So how does this happen? So much is instilled and innate in us. So so your boys, and I probably wouldn't have asked this if I didn't see Sarah, the first female official.
Sure.
At the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
Your boys following your footsteps, and even your daughter.
Right. Yeah.
Could be following your footsteps.
She could be. Yeah, the boys are following it. We'll see what Caitlin's interests are. Yeah, Sarah's a great friend. She's did an outstanding job. I'm really proud of her. And she had a lot of pressure, not only the Super Bowl, but there's a lot of pressure there on her, and she really handled it well.
Yeah, I thought so too. But I want to ask you, more getting back to, being a single parent.
Sure.
What has been the most difficult thing for you?
I think handling the day-to-day, it's the loss early on and trying to manage and move forward in your life, still with this enormous responsibility with 3 children. And realizing you got to be real. I mean, you can hold your gloves up every day, but it's okay to be sad in front of them as well, and not to fake that. You got to fake it a lot to fake it to make it. We've all heard of that, but I was so fortunate that for my brothers, my parents, Christy's parents, and extended family, that not only officiating but just moving forward in life. I know when we were traveling for those 18 months looking for that magic cure to MD Anderson and out east to Penn for melanoma, it was my brothers, and particularly my Perry, moved in and cared for my children along with the in-laws, and why I still continue to officiate. And she really wanted me to continue to officiate because it was, for me, a release to get away for 48 hours or 24 hours. And the league was great. They kept me close. But, when she passed, it was trying to reorganize our life forward. And like yourself, although mine, I didn't want to give up, but I knew logically that was really tough. And 'cause I felt that we were slipping. And trying to live with, your husband, you're supposed to protect your wife. Mm-hmm. And I struggled with that for a long time, Bonnie. It was like I knew in my heart that's what I felt, but I know in my brain that's like, I know you tried everything, but it took a long time, and I struggled with that with my own self. Is that did I let my kids down? Did I let her down? And that was hard because we fought our ass off. We fought hard.
That's okay. You can say that. Your transparency is so raw, and I love that because it is hard, and there's so many people that don't get it. That just think that just move, you need to move on, or you'll get it, or time heals.
Sure.
Time will heal. Well, it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't at all. And I think that I hope that you've made it now 10 years that that even though you were the husband that wanted to protect his wife, there's only so much that we can do. And I think that was one of the things that really helped me with Rob's passing. Even though it was a surprise, I knew his struggles. And we did have to work, and we did have to search for medication and to search for doctors. But when someone dies by suicide, it's all about the act. But I didn't have any regrets, right? And I think, like, if you can not have any regrets for you were there with Christy, you tried your best, you traveled 18 months with her, that's all we can do.
Right.
And we can't feel bad about that. In fact, that made me happy because I knew I gave it my all.
Sure.
And it sounds
like
that's what you did.
It did. It took some time to work through that, and some tough nights and some dark places that we all have been.
Yeah.
To be very transparent. It was hard.
Yeah.
You know?
It is really hard because it's, and I hate to use the word burden, but we do feel all of that on us. Like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to raise our kids? How am I going to be the dad? Or how are you going to be the mom too? Of all of these situations that we get put in. And then plus, you want to have your life.
Right.
There's another side that you have to live and you have to laugh. And you don't want to feel guilty about doing so.
Correct. Yeah, that was a challenge.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think that one of the other things that we talked about before about being widowed parents they're much different than being single parents, right?
Yes.
Because being a single parent, they still get, Wednesdays off and every other weekend free.
It always burned me when I hear guys would say, hey, I can't go because I got to watch my kids like it's a burden. It's like, wait a minute, dude, I got them 24/7. And I'm not complaining.
I know. I know. That would really get me too. But it is really hard. And I think that, we show how much strength we have, right? But we also, what I did, and I think this is what we talked about, is I found myself compensating in other ways for my kids. Like, I was like, oh, you want that? Like, I would buy them whatever they wanted.
Right.
I would let them, oh, you want to have 10 kids sleep over? Yes, you can have 10 kids. And then you get exhausted. And then you're like, I'm so tired and exhausted. What are they doing? Where are they at? You kind of lose track of them.
Yeah.
Did you experience that too?
I did, and they would probably say no, I didn't give them enough, but that's them. I found myself now, I realized it years ago too, is I probably enabled them more than anything. It's like, here, can we do some chores? And it's like trying to do it now. It's like, what? I just did it all. And, one thing occurred is that I became really independent. And that had some advantages to move forward, but also cost me a little bit as well, personal development and relationships too. And I learned from that as well. And I probably should have accepted more help from people that loved me, but I was just so, it was like I was going to get it done. This was my goal, and I got to it's when I hit the back door, and I think it's still my house. And I remember I was being interviewed by Monday Morning Quarterback by Peter King, who was a world-renowned sports reporter. He said something like, well, what is pressure? Is pressure in the fourth quarter, last 2 minutes of the game? It's like, no, pressure's hitting the door at midnight. Is there food, clothes, lunch is packed for tomorrow? I mean, that's the reality as a single parent. And that was pressure. The game was, but you know what? The important part is hitting home and those kids waking up and them just not hitting a beat, missing a beat, getting their lunch, going, they got clothes are cleaned, and it's go time. And that was the pressure, trying to balance the profession of teaching and officiating. I did work part-time for a few years, and once again, the district was outstanding, and then went back full-time a while back.
I can so relate to to that, especially the part where you're saying you just did it all.
Right.
I still find myself doing,
Yes.
what, I can do it 10 times. People will say you can get done in one day what it takes me a week. But you have to.
Right.
You have to. But I love that analogy with pressure. And again, it goes back to one of the things that I really admire in you, and that is your family. So what else? What is it that you want to share with us that we don't know?
Well, I love teaching. Okay, I really do. To me, I love the profession as much as I do in officiating. I love working with young adolescents. I teach health class. I've taught it for many years, and I teach physical education. I love the connection in PE with the sports officiating. Just today, we were playing a kickball game, and I was probably getting more slack and from high school kids than I did from the Super Bowl that I refereed about judgment calls. And I love that interaction, but also the health class. And, as you've come and spoke to my students a couple of years ago, it's, the 1 in 5 adolescents are, mental disorders, and suicides, second, third leading cause of teenagers. And when I taught health 20-some years ago, we didn't even discuss suicide amongst teenagers. It was still motor vehicle accidents as number one. Mm-hmm. So I still like connecting with kids about mental health, and they're under so much stress. I know our students at Wyoming, they're great kids, and they are living adult lives. They got jobs, taking care of siblings, they're doing their work. And I really love the profession, working with kids as I do officiating. So it's kept me going, although I retire soon. I think next year.
Really?
Actually, yeah, I will. Probably shortly after the first of the year, I'll retire, and I'll miss it, but also I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Well, what are your retirement plans?
Officiating still. Work
Okay.
out 3 days a week, go to breakfast,
Okay.
and just maybe grab that time back for Dino a little bit.
Yeah.
Now. That's where I've been wanting to go the last year and a half, and trying to get that Dino time.
Well, I hope that you do, because you so deserve it, Dino.
Thank
and
you.
I am just so thankful that you're here. And I was so grateful that I was able to go to your class, because I see that for mental health too. And I think that one thing that is my passion is changing that conversation and bringing it
Sure.
to everyday places. And you allowed me to do that. And I'm going to keep doing that
For sure.
until we see change for these kids, because the ages 10 to 34, suicide is now the second leading cause to death. 10 years old.
Yeah.
And the things that we don't talk about is some of the pain. There's whether, kids are living with parents that are losing jobs. Mm-hmm. They're being bullied. They're being isolated. All of those things, maybe you don't have a diagnosed mental health illness, but they're causing pain that is causing suicidal thoughts and suicidal action. So for you to recognize that and want to talk about it in your class just is another thing that I really admire about you.
Yeah, I want the students, and not only students, but we've all, the resources, the accessibility. There is help, and I think putting that in front of our students is really important, and making that aware that it's not a shame to reach out for help. And, as adults, we go through it.
Yeah. Well, I think, and it reminds me of something that is kind of on topic, but kind of off topic. And it was years ago, but it has to do with a ref. It has to do with a ref. And the ref made a bad call. Okay, that happens.
Sure does.
Right? So a question to you is, you've made 100 perfect calls this game, and you made one that wasn't so great.
Mm-hmm.
Which affects you more?
The one that doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's the one that people remember. But I think that that's what we do as a society, is like, you could give me 10 compliments, but if you say, oh, you look like you're getting old, I'm going to remember that. I'm not.
By the way, you're not.
but I'm not going to remember you saying you look nice today.
Right.
And I think that that the ref, because it's never one thing. And the reason I remember, and this was like a long time ago, before I'm even doing what I do, and it just has resonated so much with me, because he's like, we all make mistakes. We all have those moments. And now I just thought of another one. I'm not going to pick on you, because,
Sure, shoot.
But I do want to know
Is this the hot seat?
Yeah. Well,
No.
it's going to be about you making mistake.
Okay, fine.
But how we're going to give you grace,
Truly
and we're
I'd
still
make
going to
mistake. I'd
love
make
you for
mistakes.
it. Okay, so when I see Dino on the football field,
Right.
I see him at the goal post.
Sure.
And I see you, usually standing there, or, your hands on your, or, your arms going up,
Yes.
like straight up in the air. But there was one video I saw of you that you weren't standing there.
Okay.
You were running. And it was a Packers game with Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Now, I didn't get how you got there. So explain that situation.
Well, I can give you all types of excuses. I pulled a hamstring the week before. It was cold. I had 10 pounds of clothing, but I did not look very athletic. That's for sure. I was like, that's not me. But I didn't read the pass very well, and it was considered a deep pass. And I got caught up in traffic, and the Green Bay Packer guy used me as a screen. That's part of the game. And he cut back in front of me, and I was not in good position. And the defensive back ran into me, and I got pushed over a little bit.
You got trampled on.
I did.
And rolled up. You were did you get hurt at all?
I felt it the next day a little bit, but, I finished.
Yeah, you finished. Okay, so how did that... And I don't know, what is it called? An error, a mistake, a judgment call?
Yeah, our mechanic switched a little bit, that they wanted my position, what is the back judge, to stay in a little bit more. And that's the first time that's happened to me in a long, long time. And so I was more upset, man, when'd that happen? I can't let that happen. And then I wasn't worried about something that the league would evaluate me on. It was more about not liking the mechanic that was changing, and about me, I got to do better. Okay, so it was a self-evaluation, but it wasn't like I missed a pass interference call that it's played on ESPN 4 times and the team loses a game. Now that's a different level, right? So that was minor in that aspect, other than I get hurt,
Yeah, and other than it got a lot of press.
Totally.
Yeah, which is why I want to go back to just saying we all make mistakes.
Sure.
And have they ever focused on you making a great call and the right call like they did on that call?
They do. The NFL, every game is evaluated, every play is evaluated. You'll know if it's a correct call, no call, or nothing's listed, which is fine. And then they would give you a correct judgment or a correct mechanic. But they also can give you an incorrect mechanic, right? Would be maybe something like that you saw, that if I didn't read the play rightly. Typically, when you get hit like that, they don't really hit you double like that with evaluation. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the evaluation process in the NFL, it can be stressful. It really can. And so there's that boys, and there's things that are called downgrades that you don't want to see, for sure. Yes.
Okay. So obviously, being a Super Bowl official, you have made many more great calls than you did on that one. But for me and my understanding, I wanted to see, because like I said, I always see you in the back,
right.
But then I saw you running, and it was fun. It was fun seeing you at the Super Bowl too.
Oh, yeah,
so another question that just came in my mind. So not knowing much about football.
Sure.
You're the official that's standing there with the two players. How are you chosen to be the one that's standing there? Right. I have a picture of you on my phone from my screen.
Do you?
That I should have showed you before, so you would know what I'm talking about.
Okay,
but do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay, what is that?
Well, my position, the back judge position, is dedicated bringing out the visiting captain or captains. This year was only one because of COVID. So my job is at a certain time when the referee leaves the TV, I have to bring them out for the coin toss, for the procedure of the coin toss. And then I have to listen to make sure that it's handled properly with heads, tails. Did the referee record it properly, give them the right choices? So a little bit of administrative stuff.
Okay.
But it's a good time to get on TV, too.
Yeah, I know, right? It was a good picture.
Right.
So then, is that like an earned
No,
privilege?
It's a sign. No, a rookie could get that.
Okay.
A rookie wouldn't get the Super Bowl, but it could be a rookie bringing out captains as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was so great talking to you.
It was great talking to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being here. And I think that you just validated the importance of family and how family gets you through. And especially with all of the travel that you have to do,
right,
and everything that is on your plate. I'm so looking forward to seeing what you do in the next year and a half with Dino Time. That's about
I hope so.
Ready to come.
It's coming.
I think that you're going to make it happen.
It's definitely going to happen.
I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's winning in life. That's what we're trying to do, right?
Exactly. And we're getting to that. Well, I'm older than you, so I'm getting to that age where I need to do that myself. And maybe I can take a lesson or two from you on that. But
keep winning.
But today, Dino, I think the ball bounced right sometime, and I'm the fortunate one having you here.
Oh, thank you. It's
So
been great reconnecting, and thanks for inviting me.
All right, great. I think that's a wrap. Dino is in an elite group of NFL officials, and it was fun and educational finding out more about his life as an official and the amount of support his community and family gave him to pursue his dream. The conversation with Dino brought an unexpected tear or two to my eyes. His passion is deep, his beliefs are strong, and his heart will always be with his late wife, Christy. There's a beautiful moment seeing the look on his face when he talked about the strength she provided for their family. Although our loved ones may be gone, the impact they have on us lasts a lifetime. The window looking into someone else's life is never what we think it is. Even those with exciting jobs in front of 80 million people during a live Super Bowl event, we all have things going on behind the smile. I'm grateful for Dino to be in the studio to warm my heart and hopefully warm yours too. For more information on the Melanoma Research Alliance, go to curemelanoma.org. Would you like to support the Paganelli family with a donation in honor of Christy? We would love for you to do so by mailing a check to Christy's Cause, Aquinas College Athletic Department, 1700 East Fulton Street, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49506. A special shout out to Stuart Polchak at Soundpost Studios for making us sound so good. Also, we love Big B Coffee. During our podcast sessions, thank you for allowing us to buy one, give one to start the conversation.